All right, in this video, I want to voice some concerns. They're not all mine, but they're becoming my concerns. And these are coming from comments I've been getting on a video that's become popular, at least for my channel. And it's about Aaron in God a Minute, where in the video I mention about how Aaron needs to be open to the possibility that he's wrong about the rapture being on Shavuot and that it could be on another day this year. Right? I'm not saying anything wrong or evil. I'm just saying, hey, it would show a real lack of humility if he's just stubborn and says we have to wait till next year, because that's what he has said, right? And some of the concerns, there was even a person who said it in very good words. He said, you can tell when there's a cult because if you speak an opinion about the leader and all you're doing is speaking your opinion, right? You're not saying anything wrong. A lot of the people will come out and attack you for doing so. And that's a big part of the response I got, is a bunch of people making a mountain out of a molehill. I'm like, hey, Aaron needs to look at other dates this year. Let's look at other days this year as a possible time for the rapture, because I believe it's this year. And it would be a real lack of humility if he's stubborn and says we have to wait till next year. It's like very disheartening to even think that, right? Since there's so much pointing to it being this year, right? And the way people responded was just strange. The way I was looking at it is just like a bunch of demons, because they're just calling me ruthless and attacking and causing division, and I'm gossiping, I'm slandering, I'm doing all these things, and they're making it sound like I'm doing a lot of crazy things that I'm not doing, right? And it doesn't bother me. I don't really care what they have to say. I don't respect them or their opinion. But some of the people made points. They were saying, yeah, that looks like a cult right there, because you can't say anything about the leader without getting a backlash, right? And I didn't even say anything wrong, right? It's something very simple. Like, hey, yeah, I'm just implying, hey, that's a lack of humility. That's a prideful to think that it can't be at the Feast of New Wine. It can't be at the Feast of New Oil. It can't be at the Feast of Trumpets. If you don't think it can be at those feasts, that's a real lack of humility there. But somehow I'm a real prick, and I'm like a demon. I'm a devil attacking God's child. That's what some of them said, acting as though I'm like the Pharisees attacking Jesus. And it's like, what? The total exaggerations, right? I'm still dumbfounded by it, like the reaction that some of these people have to this. Now, I'm not saying Aaron has a cult, as in he's intentionally being a cult leader. I don't know. I wouldn't think so. But these people are cultists because they are idolizing Aaron, and they're acting as though he's infallible, and you can't say anything about him that's against him. Like, you can't disagree with him. You can't say, hey, just something simple as I said, hey, that's a lack of humility if you won't look at other days. That's all I said. I didn't say anything else about him. And that's the only thing that you can say that would be any way negative about what I said. And this is the response. These people are committing idolatry and have Aaron up as their God, because there's no reason for the response. And if Aaron knows about these kind of people and how they respond to people that say something as simple as I said about him, he needs to rebuke them, because his silence is consent to what they're doing. But I've already gone over this, and I'm probably taking too much time on this. But there was other concerns that I thought was interesting. This was one of my main concerns. Like, these people, like, whatever, right? You can just basically ignore these people, remove their comments. If need be, they really bother you, you can just block them. It's like, all right, whatever. There's nothing productive here. Basically, they're telling you to shut up, right? You can't judge anybody, but they'll sit there and judge you. Like, there's people saying, oh, you got to forgive 70 times 7. And it's like, well, that passage says you forgive if they ask for forgiveness. And if you really think that's what it means, why don't you just overlook me? Just forgive me and go about your life. Why are you trying to tell me to stop doing what I'm doing and just forgive, but you're not doing that to me? Why aren't you giving me that same forgiveness? Well, maybe this is why. He got a hardcore fan club. It treats him as if he is Jesus Christ, God Almighty. Can't be wrong. He's infallible. The little pope, right? It's a little concerning. It does get me to question things. But there's other people talking about some stuff. And they're saying, a lot of these watchmen, it's all about this. And they have created LLCs. And some of them are being sued. Now, I'm not saying this applies to Aaron here. I'm talking about the watchman community in general. That they're saying that there's a lot of the watchmen that have created these to help get this. And I was like, they're joining with the state. That's spiritual adultery against God. That's like the church mingling with the state. That's why I call out a lot of these churches and these denominations, why I'm not part of them, is because they're 501c3 or 4 organizations that make them tax exempt. But it puts them under the thumb of the government, where there's certain things that they can't preach about. And if there's things that they do preach about, they have to preach about them in a certain way, or else they're going to lose their tax exempt status. Right? So you can't trust the denominations because they're married to the world, and Satan is the god of this world. And if these people have done this, well, they definitely got a foot in the world. They're joined to it, right? So they'll tell you, oh, don't take the mark of the beast, because you're joining on to Satan, right? You're taking the mark of the seal. You're joined to him, kind of like a marriage. Yet they're doing that right now, right? I'm not saying this is the mark of the beast. I'm saying it's spiritually no different, right? And they're just being Judases. So I wanted to voice these people's concern, because they were saying some of these people were even getting sued. Like, I don't understand what's going on. I don't know the whole drama and behind the scenes stuff. I try to focus on people's messages and not so much the messenger, because there's times where you run across people and they sound crazy, or they sound goofy, or they're all just weird, and I try to overlook everything and try to hear them out. And sometimes there's people, they're like covered in tattoos, and they talk a little I guess rough, maybe cuss, and I just ignore it. And I'm like, I just want to hear the message, right? I'm not gonna be like, whoa, this person's not perfect, so I'm not gonna hear them. Be like, no, I know God will take anybody, and right, he'll even take a donkey and use it to talk to you. I mean, right? So I'll listen to these people. Maybe they got some kind of truth. They got something. So I don't usually get into that stuff that's all behind the scenes, but these people, they're worried about these kind of things. And they're saying about these things, and that's why these watchmen, that's a part of the second part of this concern, That's why they're all about rapture. They're all about that. And that was a concern of mine starting a few years ago. I was like, why are there channels like Aaron's and Barry Oz, where pretty much all they do is talk about when the rapture is going to be? And these people are saying, yeah, because they're using this to draw attention and make money. That's why they also act all goofy and entertaining in their videos, is because they want to draw attention. So if they keep talking about it, they know they get more views talking about this than, someone like me. Like, I haven't got really any attention until all of a sudden I made a video about God a minute, and all of a sudden there's a lot of people all of a sudden watching the video, right? And I noticed my videos where I do talk about the rapture usually are more popular than the ones where I'm talking about doctrine, talking about practical stuff, warning about different things going on in the world, right? Or I'm giving life lessons and giving experience out. People don't care. They want this, and they want to hear about how it's today, or how it's about tomorrow, or it's not that far off, like maybe next week, right? They like this, right? Because they believe these things because they want to believe it. It's the whole Donald Trump art of the deal. And that's one of the things he says in his book about the art of the deal. He says, you got to make the deal sound so great and so wonderful that people believe it, not because it's true, but because they want to believe it is true. Such as telling them they're going to get so rich off of this deal, and they're going to prosper so great off this deal that they're never going to have to work again, And they believe it because they're like, yeah, that would be so nice, right? They want to believe it, so they're like, they believe it. And that's how a lot of people are, right? When you're looking at this rapture stuff, people believe it because they want to. I'm not saying the rapture's not going to happen. Like I said, I believe this year looks like a really good year for it to happen. But I don't know exactly when. I can speculate, but that's about it. And I'm not going to tell you, it's going to be this time or that time. I'll be like, no, I think it could be this time or that time. But as far as I know, it could be today. It could be right now, right? So, but my channel's not surrounded about that. Recently, I'm gonna talk about the rapture a little bit. Like here, I'm not really talking about the rapture as in the videos about it, and I'm talking about when it is and all this. It's more talking about it in passing here, and about how other people are talking about it, right? But, yeah, I always thought it was weird that all they do is they talk about this. But I was like, all right, maybe that's just what God wants them to do. But I just found that to be very strange, right? For example, you go through Paul's writings. He wrote most of the New Testament. He didn't talk a whole lot about the rapture, right? He was rebuking and exhorting with all long-suffering and doctrine, right? And preaching the gospel, being a living sacrifice, right? And just saying, yeah, you gotta have a hope that even if you die, God's gonna resurrect you, right? He wasn't like focused on the rapture and surrounded about the rapture, right? And not like how these people are today. So I agree with their sentiment there. Something's off about that, right? Something's off, and maybe it does have to do with making money. I don't know. Maybe there's something to that. You talk about the rapture, you get a lot of attention, and you can get some people to give money. And maybe that's what's going on. Maybe that is what is going on. Which would be sad, but there's a lot of Judases. Peter warns about those who are going to fleece the sheep. Even Paul warns about it, that they're going to use you as merchandise. And a lot of people, I guess, they get caught up in it. It's a shame. And I think this is the biggest one. This is one that's kind of new to me. I didn't know that some of them were being sued, and they have these little LLCs going on, and they're joined with the state like that. And it makes a lot of sense, because I was like, there's so much more that we can be doing right now other than constantly talking about the rapture, because there are times like this when the whole point of starting this whole thing in the first place, where I was talking about Aaron, was, hey, you're discouraging people. If you say it has to be at this time, Shavuot, but if it doesn't happen, then it has to be next year, you're getting people to basically stop looking, kind of lose some hope, and they got to sit and wait till next year. You kind of, that's discouraging people. That's not exhorting them, right? And that's part of the whole thing, is to keep people, hey, we don't know when it is. We're not infallible, right? So maybe it's a different time, right? Maybe it's not even this year, right? I don't want to say it's definitely this year. I don't know for sure, right? But it looks like it. It really does. But, yeah, just some concerns here. I thought there was another one here. Give me a second to try to remember what the concerns were here. There was another one about something here. I don't think I can remember it off the top of my head, but there was another one that came to my mind. This one I'm not going to get too into. But apparently there's a lot of drama behind the scenes that I'm not going to gossip about. But there's concerns about some of these people's personal lives that they need to get straightened out and they need to address, because there's a lot of people talking about it. And the more they ignore it, the more people think that there's truth to these things, right? I think they need to address what's going on, because some of these things are serious accusations, right? But I don't know the people. I don't know their personal lives, so I'm not getting into it. But there's people that are getting into it, and they're commenting on my videos about it, right? Which ties into, I guess, another thing where there's people who are blocked by these watchmen because they disagree with them, right? There's people who are telling me, yeah, I talked in the forums and on Aaron's videos about the lunar Sabbath, or about using the full moon to start the month, not the new moon. And I'm not saying I agree with them, but that doesn't mean I'm going to block them just because they have that view, right? But apparently they're sharing that view, and they get kicked out of the Discord, and they get blocked from the YouTube, and it's kind of like, that's a bit strange, right? Kind of like, I tried to reach out to Aaron about him being wrong on the calculation of when Shavuot is, but he just seems dead set, nope, this is where it is. And that's what gets me thinking that some of these people, I guess this is that other concern. Where can I put it here? We'll mark it up here. We'll put bad intentions. And what I mean by that is not just, oh, they're trying to get money here, but part of me's thinking, with their whole talk about the rapture constantly, is that they're actually trying to get people discouraged. And yeah, I think it's a twofold attack that could be what they're doing. And some watchmen are probably doing it not realizing that they're just copying the ones who are intentionally doing this. But I think it started out with people intentionally trying to do this to basically discourage Christians, all right? And maybe get them to make some life choices that affect them negatively because they think they're going home soon, and it's not as soon as they really thought and intended. So they make some choices that affect them, their living situation or their finances or something along those lines, right? And then there's times where you keep getting your hopes up, and it's kind of like, I don't know how to put it here in an analogy or a metaphor here, but imagine it's kind of like, you can think of it a couple ways. Like if you're a child and you keep asking your parents for, let's say, a toy or a certain treat. You want a certain treat or a toy, and they keep telling you maybe tomorrow or maybe next weekend. And then next weekend comes and you ask them and they're like, oh, okay, all right. Well, maybe next weekend, not this weekend. Maybe next weekend. How many times do they do that before you just like give up? They're just not going to do it. They're not going to give me the treat. They're not going to give me the toy. They're just going to keep pushing the time back to next weekend. It's always next weekend, but it's never next weekend, right? Or it's the same thing. Let's say you're trying to, you're a teenager, young adult, and you're asking some lady out on some date, and she tells you, oh, not this Friday, maybe next Friday. Well, how many times if she keeps doing that, are you just going to be like, all right, she's just not interested? All right, she's just messing with me now, and that's not cool, her playing these games like that, all right? And that's kind of what they're doing. Oh, maybe it's this day, maybe it's that day. And that's when, at the beginning, I was like, why don't you just focus on the year? Why don't you focus on the year? Because then you won't be playing these games with everybody's hearts and emotions and getting the hype going up just to let them down. And this is actually something that narcissists do. And it's a way to break your will and spirit, is narcissists, to help control their little flock, their little harem, whatever you want to call it, is they try to break them down. And sometimes to break them down, they get their hopes up. Sometimes their hopes up are getting some kind of closure with the narcissist, where the narcissist is going to admit that they're wrong or admit this, and they look like they're going to come clean. They get their hopes up, and then they just sweep their feet out from underneath them and be like, and they fall down. Be like, haha, it didn't happen. And then they build them up again. Right? The narcissist build them up. Yeah, everything's going to go good. Everything's going to go. And then they sweep their feet out and laugh as they fall down. Right? And it's like, how many times can you get built up just to get your feet kicked out from underneath you and fall down before you either stop getting up or standing up tall, or you just stay down because you're tired of falling down or getting knocked down, right? Eventually, no matter how tough you are, how strong your will is, you can't go on forever doing that. It's going to beat you down. And once they get you beat down where you stop standing up or you stay down, then they know that they got the control over you and they can manipulate you now. They can dictate your reality now. And it's one of those tactics that they do, building you up just to knock you down, because it entertains them. It makes them feel like they have power and control. And it kind of looks like at times that's what these people are doing, right? They're giving out a lot of good information, but you got to understand that Satan mixes a little bit of poison with the drink, right? It's a drop of poison in the water, a drop of poison in the wine. It's not as if he gives you a whole cup of poison and tells you that it's water. No, he gives you truth, but he mixes lies with it, kind of like what he did with Adam and Eve. Hey, God said you could eat of all the trees of the garden. That was true. But he left out the poison part. Not of this tree. You can't eat of this one, right? So you see the little subtle little poison that he put in there. And in this case, what he left out, right? And that's what you need to understand. He comes as an angel of light and his ministers as ministers of righteousness. So all these people who are claiming to be Christian and they seem like good, godly people, maybe they're not. Maybe they're wolves in sheep's clothing. Maybe they are Judas goats. And listening to reading these comments, it seems as though there might be some truth to this. That some of these people have bad intentions, even if it's just for money, even if it's just to have attention. Try to squeeze it in here. That's not a good intention, right? And yeah, I mean, I remember calling out Barry Aw and Barb Barber about them being a month off. It's been a couple years. Those videos, for some reason, they didn't get views. This one about Godman, it got some views. But when I called out them about them admitting that they were a month off, I don't know if you guys remember, but it was like 2-3 years ago, maybe even 4 years ago now. Time's going by fast. They were talking about how, the Feast of Trumpets and Atonement and Tabernacles is this month. But then after the month passed, when they're telling you maybe the rapture's here at Feast of Trumpets, okay, maybe it's at Atonement, okay, maybe it's at Tabernacles. Then all of a sudden they tell you the next month, we were a month early because the Jews were a month off. And it's like, okay, so maybe it's this month. Maybe this month this is where true trumpets is, and then true Atonement and Tabernacles. So maybe it's here. And then after he told you, hey, they're a month off, what does he go do? He tells you, Hanukkah, maybe this is the rapture, which Hanukkah could be the rapture, but he tells you it a month early just to get your hopes up to say, I forgot. I don't know how. I already forgot they were a month early. So it's this next month is the true Hanukkah. And it's like, why are you messing with people like that? You already knew they were a month early, but you still acted like, this is when Hanukkah is, when you already told us they were a month early on the previous feasts. There seems to be some kind of an agenda going on there, right? And the more the people are talking about this, and the points they're bringing up, it just reminded me of the stuff I was seeing. And I'm starting to think there's a false watchman community, right? Where they're sounding an alarm when there isn't one to be sound. Right? Causing a commotion. And, it's unfortunate. It really is. But it reminds me of what someone was sharing this quote from an old pastor about discernment. And he's saying discernment is not the ability to discern between right and wrong. It's the ability to discern between right and almost right. So what that means is that discernment would be the ability to discern between the true Christians and those that are just really good at pretending to be Christian. That takes some discernment, right? They're Judases, right? Where you don't realize they're not Christian until they betray Jesus. So, with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, you like my other videos, please take a moment to pray to our Heavenly Father that He keeps us all going and protects us until He comes and gets us and keeps the ministries going and even supports us by the ministries. And that He gives us what we need in order to change, that we may give Him 100% as He's given us 100%. That we'd be able to let go of ourselves and give it all up for Him, just as He's done for us if need be. But if possible, that it gives us a peaceful and comfortable life until He comes and gets us. And just an amen in Jesus' name to that. It should be good as gold. And if you want to help out some more, please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, share the video, share the channel, interact in the comments section. Share these things far and wide. You know, it doesn't mean you have to share my video. I would appreciate it if you did, but you can put things into your own words. Maybe you can do a better video, or you're more eloquent than I am, or I don't know. Do your thing. Just get the word out, get the truth out, right? And at the end here, I'm going to ask you something funny here. Can I have all your money? This is kind of funny, right? Because I got a comment saying you shouldn't ask for money because there's no blessing in it. And that's my response to him. I asked him, it might have been her. I asked, can I have all your money? Just to have some fun with it. Because, yeah, I mean, you don't have to give me a cent. I mean, I'm doing my best to put all this stuff out for free. I don't plan on charging anybody for any of this. Like even the Patreon, you can go look at that. No one's using it, but I have different tiers, but you don't get anything different no matter the tier. I just set up the tiers because that's how you have to set it up, right? And you can just do whatever you want there or not, right? And I'm going to still provide this the best I can, free of charge. And if I ever can't do it, then I'm just not going to do it, right? I mean, that's my only options, right? God freely given me blessings and knowledge and revelation. I share it freely. But if I don't have access to the internet or something along those lines, well, then I'm not sharing it on here anymore, right? That's it. I'll still share everything I got for free. It just won't be online, right? Maybe I'll make DVDs or just street preach or something. I have no idea, right? And asking for your support is just to make sure that I can keep this going, because I know we're all dealing with financial issues. There's somebody commenting that they're hoping Jesus comes back soon because this fall looks like they're going to be homeless. And I was like, I know your concerns. Financial problems are real. And with my wife passing away, they become a little bit more real. For me anyway. So if you want this to keep being free for everybody else, to keep seeing this stuff, your financial support would help in that. But you don't have to do that, right? You watching the video all the way through helps out. And your prayers, God will provide a way, right? You like this channel, you want the video still being seen, well, tell God that's how you feel about it. And you want this to keep going, and he'll provide something, right? And we don't know how he'll work it out, but he will. So that's why I ask for your support, and sometimes that would be through actual money, right? And I did have some pride for a while, for a few years, about not even mentioning money, right? To just provide this stuff without mentioning it at all. But then with what happened with my wife, I was like, I need to swallow my pride here and ask for support, ask for help. And I was thinking, well, you know what? If this ministry is really being provided by God, where he's behind it, he's going to provide people to support it. So I just kind of went out on a limb and was like, hey, help me out. And a lot of people did. But yeah, it's not like I'm getting what a lot of these other people are getting. It's not enough to actually to live on, right? So don't think I'm like well off here. No, I'm on that brink of a tightrope where, okay, things are going well, but it looks like if I look to the left or the right, it's scary. Like you can fall off, right? You look down, you go, okay, I just got to walk by faith, not by sight. I'm going to not worry about it, Lord. I know it's in your hands. I'm just going to walk. I'm not going to focus on it, because then it becomes a problem, right? And I always save this kind of thing to the end of the video so that if you wanted to, you could have just turned it off already. I already got the message out. And now I just ramble on to myself about these kind of things. But yeah, your support would be appreciated in any way you do it. I swallow my pride and say, hey, I could use your help, right? I would rather not have to do that, whether you believe me or not. But it is what it is. I got to eat a little bit of humble pie on that. And I'm slowly realizing a lot of things that, especially with what happened with my wife, really put me in. It really hit me hard here about being powerless. Like there was nothing I could do. All I could do is leave it in God's hands. Like I couldn't comfort her. I couldn't save her. I couldn't give her my life. There's just nothing. And then it's just kind of realizing that ultimately I got no power to do anything. I can think I do and I put effort into something, but ultimately there's nothing. So that's what I'm doing. Leaving in God's hands. And some people, I noticed it bothers them. That the closer I'm getting here about, hey, let's walk by faith, not by sight, and actually practicing what I preach here, it seems to bother people, right? It really does, right? I don't know why. It makes me think that it's something I ought to be doing. There's so many people who mention about asking for money or mentioning money. They get bothered by it, man. It's like, well, you didn't have to pay to watch the video. And you don't have to support financially if you don't want to. So what is your problem? I don't get it. I don't know, as if I can manipulate people and make them give me their money when they don't want to. I don't know what it is. As if I'm going to old folks' homes and bleeding them dry. But I'll probably make a lot more if I did something like that. But I don't know. I'm just relying on, hey, the Spirit that's with me is with you. And if that's the case, you'll recognize that. Because I believe if we have the same Spirit, you're going to see that I'm genuine. And those that have a different spirit, they're not going to see me for what I really am. And I've been realizing that as well. There's a lot of people that they have their mind made up about you. They already decided who and what you are. And they think you're fake. Right? They think you're a pretender or full of it. And there's nothing you can do to prove them otherwise. Right? Kind of like an atheist. They don't want to believe that there's God, so they don't care about the evidence. Like, life and consciousness cannot come from something that's not alive or not conscious. That's not science. So the source of life is alive and conscious. And you use that as a starting point to show, hey, the source of all things is God, who's alive and conscious. They just reject it. It's like you just gave them some evidence, but then they just throw it out in the trash. And it's like, well, it's not that there's no evidence. It's that you don't care about the evidence. You've already made your choice about what you want to believe, and there's nothing you can do to change that. You can't make them believe something they don't want to believe. You can't make them accept something they don't want to accept. So, yeah, I think I'm done rambling. I'm just kind of bringing it up because there's, lately with all the comments, there's a lot of people talking about it. So, more people talking about it and leaving you comments about it, the more you think about it. So here I am talking about it. Hopefully now I get it off my chest and I don't have to really talk about it so much anymore. So thank you for watching all the way through here, even through this rambling. I mean, awesome, I guess. I guess you maybe learned a little bit about me, which is kind of weird, but yeah, I guess thanks for watching. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.